Now you've added in 4 parts to your track: the drum beat, the bass line, the chord part, and the synthesizer riff. We can start doing a bit of arrangement to our song. At the moment, all the parts just start together at the start of the song and they just play until I've stopped them looping, which isn't ideal. It makes the song pretty boring. So let's think about how we could lay out the song to make it a bit more interesting. Now, in dance music, there's a kind of structure which is really common, involving breakdowns, build-ups and drops. So we're going to try and do that now by taking our instrument parts and just moving them along, making room at the start for an intro. Now the intro, in my case, is going to be just drums. You can start with any one part. The one thing I'd suggest is that you save your bass line for a little bit later in the song. So I'm going to save my bass line. I'm going to start with just drums. The next thing I want to come in, it could be your chords, it could be your riff, it's completely up to you. I'm going to go with my chords, but I'm not just going to drop it in randomly. I'm going to make sure that when I put my new thing in, I use the grid lines and I use the bar lines to make sure my piece is going to sound really musical. If I leave my chords coming in here, they're going to come in a way that feels quite random. So instead of that, I'm going to drag them up to the number 3. 3 is the bar number 3 and is a good place to start because 2 bars have already gone. If we do things in 2 and 4, multiples of 2 and 4, they always sound good. So if I had it coming in here after 3, it wouldn't sound quite so good. But if I had it coming in here after the drums have played 4 times, it would sound much better. I'm going to go for 2 just to make it a bit speedier today. Then I'm going to have my riff come in. Again, I'm going to wait for 2 versions of my drum beat before my riff comes in, and I'm going to make sure it's starting exactly on the bar line just there. So I've got things coming in a little bit more gradually. Let's press play and have a listen to that. Here we go. So it starts with just the drums. Starts to build by adding in the chords. And then my riff comes in. Now, I don't want the bass to come in yet. I'm going to put the bass over here, get rid of it for the moment, because the next bit I'm going to have is the bass line. After the song is the breakdown. Sorry. After the song's kind of all built up gradually over the course of your intro, what often happens is the drums stop. The drums disappear to make the breakdown section. The breakdown section is this moment of calm before the big drop when the bass comes in. So I'm just going to take the drums out at this point. You see I drag the loop backwards so it stops. Again, I'm not going to have it stopping just randomly here. I'm going to make sure it's always using the numbers, and I'm going to use this one here. So actually I've got a multiple of 2, hopefully 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 times through the drum beat before it stops, or 2 times through that new riff. Always using multiples of 2 and always using the grid lines is always makes it sound really musical and regular. So let's have a listen to that now. It's all built up to here, and then the breakdown section is going to stop my drums. Here we go. Good. Okay, so we get the breakdown section where it all sounds quite calm, and then after a regular amount of time, let's say twice through my riff, I want my bass to come in. Okay, so my bass is going to come in here. I also want my drums to come back. Now, to make the drums come back, I'm going to need to copy and paste them. So I'm going to go to my drum part over here. I'm going to go to right click or control click if you're on a mouse without 2 buttons. So right click or control click on the first version of the drum beat and press copy, and then you can paste it by choosing where you'd like it to come in. It's going to be here just after my breakdown section, but again right on those bar lines, and I'm going to right click and choose paste. I think it's pasted quite a long part in, but if I scroll back over, yeah, there we go. I know that's working because they're both coming in at exactly the same time. Okay, they're happening at the same time. And I'll get my other parts to stop for a minute, which I can bring them back in a minute. So let's have a listen to how that sounds. I'm going to play from the end of my intro. Then I get the breakdown. Here we go. And here comes my bass line. Okay, there we go. So that's when the bass line happens. Now this bit is technically called the drop, but it doesn't sound that exciting yet because what I haven't got is the build-up. And the dance music build-up is this bit that goes dun, dun, this really quick drums, which is going to build up to the exciting moment when the bass line comes in. So I'm going to add that in now. To do that, you're going to need to go back to your drum part, back to the drum machine, and go to the instrument section in the bottom left-hand corner. You can see your main drum beat here, your main drum beat for the track, and we don't want to touch that. We want to leave it as it is, but we're going to make a new pattern by clicking on pattern B on the left-hand side here, on the right-hand side, sorry. Again, there is already a pre-made beat on pattern B, so we're going to get rid of it by clicking and dragging over all of these notes, so we end up with just a blank page. Now, the key drum that we want for our build-up is the snare drum, and a classic build-up sound might go something like this. We might add in a couple that are separated by 4 squares, so on every beat. Then we might do a couple which are getting a bit closer, and then the last few really close, so that each time it's getting closer. I've used multiples of 2 and 4 again, so this is a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, then a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, then a group of 2, and then finally 1 per each one, because that's going to sound nice and musical. And then when you've created it on here, you can press play to have a listen. There we go. That'll be a basic build-up sound, and you can finally press, when you've got your playhead at the right point, which is going to be just before the drums come in, just there, you can press add B to add it in. And there you go, I've got my B loop just here. If it comes in the wrong place, click and drag it so it's sitting right nestled up against that A there. Let's have a listen to that. Here we go. Okay, so that adds just a little bit more drama to my drums coming in, but there's more we can do. If you want it to build up even more, you could even make another C drum beat, which is just snare drums, and again, we're just using the snare drums, but separated just once per beat, add C, and then my B part could actually even get quicker straight away. So now I've split it up into 2 halves, with the first half having those separated by 4 squares, the second half being 2 squares, and then the last half being 8 of them right close together. Let's see what that sounds like. There we go. I think I missed one off the end, actually. Great. So there's how your drums could create an exciting build-up into your bass dropping. And that's creating the main structure for your dance music piece. Once you've done that, once your bass has come in, you're probably going to want to bring back your other parts. So if I copy and paste by, again, right-clicking or control-clicking on a Mac with one button on my riff, and then let's paste it in a little bit later. There you go, that's not going to have gone into the right place, so let's just make sure it's after 2 times through of the bass line. Again, always using patterns of 2 and always using the numbers along the top. Let's bring my chords back as well. There we go, let's put them in maybe after 2 times through as well. And let's just see how that's coming. Yeah, that's coming on the beat too. There we go. So now I've got my full track as it stands. We're going to add a few more bits to it, but here's where we are at the moment. Let's go from the very start and have a listen, starting with the intro with just the drums. Then here comes the chords just to set the atmosphere. Then the riff comes in. Then we get the breakdown. Then my build-up drums. And here comes the bass. Gradually adding the other parts back in to add interest. And there we go. My bass is a little bit of an anticlimax there. It's not quite as exciting as it could be, but I'm sure you've got an even more exciting bass line to drop yourselves when that comes in. So I'll just zoom out so you can see that structure. That is your basic dance music structure. Make sure you're always using the bar numbers at the top to ensure that your piece always sounds really musical, with things dropping out and coming in exactly on the grid lines, so it sounds nice and regular.